as the outcome, and now looking at how a leader should actually work towards getting those, achieving. That's the importance of leadership.
RMJ Nexus, global we rise. RMJ Nexus, reaching the skies. Move a purpose, lead the way, we building tomorrow, starting today. We are the spark, we are the light, turning ideas into action bright. With every mind and every hand, we build the future across the land. From training rooms to digital dreams, we power people, we strengthen team. With PSG and AI in motion, we move the world with bold devotion. Integrity in every stride, excellence we carry with pride. Collaboration lights our way, collaboration wins the day. Rise, rise, RMJ Nexus, rise. Together we shine, together we fly. Global vision, future strong, this is our journey, this is our song. Rise, rise, with passion and fire, lifting the nation, reaching higher. RMJ Nexus, shining through, the future begins with me and you. We lead with knowledge, we grow with heart, transforming lives, playing our part. For business, talent, and sustainability, we create impact with responsibility. From strategy to execution, we bring intelligent solutions. With every program, every stage, we turn a new and brighter page. One mission, one energy, one team, one destiny. Empower minds, unlock the way. RMJ Nexus leads the day. Rise, RMJ Nexus, rise. Together we shine, together we fly. Global vision, future strong, this is our journey, this is our song. Rise, with passion and fire, lifting the nation, reaching higher. The Nexus shining through, the future begins with me and you. Nexus, global we rise. RMJ Nexus, reaching the skies. Energy, impact, future in view. RMJ Nexus, we lead with you.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning everyone. Can I get thumbs up if you can hear my sound? The sound is okay? My microphone? Yes. Woo, 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 woo. So many thumbs up, man. Alright, let me start again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and very good morning to everyone. On behalf of RMJ Nexus Global, I'm delighted to welcome all participants today to RMJ National Training Week 2026 program entitled Media Relation and Crisis Management. My name is Azhar. It is my pleasure to serve you as your MC for today's session. In today's fast-moving media environment, news and public conversation can develop within a minute. A small customer issue can quickly attract public attention. The media can contact an organization before its internal team is fully aligned, and one unclear statement can have lasting effect on organization reputation. For this reason, effective media relation and crisis communication are no longer responsibility limited to public relation teams. Leaders, managers, spokesperson, and professionals across an organization must understand how to communicate clearly, calmly, and credibly, especially during high-pressure situations. Today's program will introduce participants to three important areas: understanding how the media view and frame an issue, building clear and credible key message, and preparing an organization communication response before a crisis occurs. Participants also will gain insight to media landscape, public perception, media engagement, spokesperson responsibilities, crisis readiness, and the practical steps required to protect stakeholder confidence and organizational reputation. So before we begin, may I kindly request all participants to keep their microphone muted during presentation. However, you can open your camera. We will welcome everyone to open their camera to show gratitude. Ya adab berguru lah kan. Question, if you have question, then you can submit to the chat box. I will cue the speaker later on. Maybe the speaker will address at appropriate time or depends on the speaker later on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished trainer for today's session, Mr. Mustapha Kamil Muhammad Jano. Let me introduce him first. Mr. Mustapha Kamil is a certified public relations practitioner with more than 3 decades of experience in media, journalism, and corporate communication. He previously held senior leadership position as a group managing editor and chief executive officer of the New Straits Times Press Malaysia Berhad, where led editorial operation and contributed to corporate communication strategy for one of Malaysia's major media organization. His professional experience also includes serving as a foreign correspondent for the New Straits Times in New York, where he covered major international events including the UN General Assembly and Asian Summit. Throughout his career, Mr. Mustapha Kamil has trained corporate professionals and government organizations in areas such as press relations, crisis management, communication strategy, and many more. His training experience include program on crisis management and the media for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as press relation training for Malaysian Highway Authority and other professional group. With his extensive experience in newsroom leadership, media engagement, crisis communication, and corporate training, Mr. Mustapha Kamil brings a valuable combination of strategic knowledge and real-world experience to today's session. I would like to appreciate so much for Mr. Mustapha Kamil for joining us today and for taking his time to share his extensive experience, practical knowledge, and valuable insight with all our participants. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending warm virtual welcome to our trainer, Mr. Mustapha Kamil. Without further ado, Mr. Mustapha Kamil, the virtual floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum. Can I start with giving you a scenario before we start discussing our matter that we are going to discuss in detail, perhaps in detail today. Now, let's say you've had a wonderful weekend with your family, your friends, and you engage in what this new generation called healing. You had a wonderful weekend, maybe at the beach, maybe in some jungle retreat or wherever. The weekend was fine, everything was fine. Then you come back to where you are residing, to your house. The next morning, before heading to office, you turn on your handphone and there it is. A big crisis is facing or staring right into the face of your organization that you represent. Now, crisis can come in many forms. Crisis is, in fact, quite related to what is known as Murphy's Law. It is not a crisis. It's not a matter of if a crisis occurs. It is a matter of when it will occur. And the question is, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the line of communication within the organization that you represent or the companies that you represent, the question is, are you ready to face situations like this? Remember, office starts at 9, businesses start at 9. If you're a listed company, the market opens at 9. And you have very, very little time in this modern era to respond to this crisis. And it's not like those old days when I first joined journalism. In today's webinar, I will be able to address to you some of the methods or the ways in which we can address, or you can address this situations like this. I will not be able to I will not be able to talk to you in full, but I will try as far as possible to give some or more indication of how this matter can be addressed, or what you need to face situations such as this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you also know that I don't have to explain to you that information today travels very close or maybe at light speed. Now, with the advent of telecommunication, internet, where you have now ever stronger Wi-Fi, ever more influential and more widespreading social media, what have you, you don't have any more time as before to plan or to take your own sweet time in handling crisis situations like this. You must be prepared. Okay, now, that is where I come into the picture. So you might be wondering, why am I the one who's talking to you now? Simply because I'm not saying that I'm better than you. What I'm saying that I have experienced 30 years in journalism, 30 years working in the newsroom, 30 years working in a media organization. I started off as a reporter and then made my way up. And when I retired 3 years ago, I was the group managing editor of the newspaper, the New Straits Times, and I was also its chief executive officer. So in other words, I have seen it all. And in my work, during my work as a reporter, as an editor, I have come into contact with people who deal with communication, be it for the company or for any organization or establishment that they represent. I dealt with them on a daily basis. So I more or less know what works and what doesn't. So I will be able to relate to you, or will be able to tell you a little bit on these things as we go along, right? So today, okay. Now, why is it important for you to have a full grasp on this subject of how to handle media crisis? Like I said, news spreads quickly now. It is much more faster than not long ago. Maybe 15 or 20 years ago, you might still have that 24 hours or 12-hour lead time before the news becomes widespread, but not anymore. Today, news travels in real time. So a small issue can spread fast, and let alone a big issue, and it can affect a public perception towards your company or the organization that you represent. Now, you must remember, companies, organizations spend years or maybe decades to build their reputation. A reputation to a company is perhaps Second, in terms of list of importance to the company, first, of course, is the people. First, of course, are the people. Then reputation. Every company takes extensive steps to protect their reputation. Now, in an environment such as now, where, like I said, news travels at light speed, it is even more important for you to have a well-structured media crisis, not only strategy but also a framework in which you can then deal when a crisis occurs. Right? So, but having said that, however, it is also important for you to know how the media themselves operate. Now, you might not have an extensive experience such as I do in this matter. So I will be able to tell you also how the media operates, so that you can then understand how the media operates, and more importantly, you can build relations with the media. Now, building relations with the media is very, very important, because whatever it is, whether it's electronic, whether it's electronic or the advancement of technology, the relation between human beings, in my personal experience, the human relation is still important. You have to know at least the key people in the media industry. You have to know what are the responsibilities, and you have to know how they operate. Or better still, I always tell people that the people in the corporate communication business, you at least have to get hold, or you are in possession of some of their phone numbers for you to call when the situation requires you to. Okay? No. But building a media relation will not only take time, it will also take some effort on your part. Your part, if you're in the communication sector, representing your companies and the organization that you represent, the way you operate and the media operate will be different. They are not the same. Right? There are some slight different, although combined, you're also serving the public in terms of information dissemination. But the way you operate is a bit, there are some distinct differences in that. So the best thing to do is to build bridges, which is to meet halfway for the media to understand you and for you to understand the media. Because in times of crisis, you need to get the correct information out, and you need to get the correct information out fast. Okay? Now, what will happen if you do not have this? Like I said, time is of the essence. It's of the essence when you are responding to a crisis. If you choose to keep quiet, or if you choose to take your own sweet time in handling crisis, the public will definitely have a negative perception of the company. And the public will say, oh, perhaps this news that's viral on social media now is correct. So time is of the essence. You need to respond quickly. Now, in response to a crisis, there are various steps that you are required to follow in responding to a crisis. What must you do? For example, if there is an industrial accident, a big industrial accident happening in one of your plants, or maybe a group of your senior executives are hauled up by the authorities for questioning. Now, any one of these can happen, all right? So what must you do in the first instance? Will you keep quiet? If you keep quiet, then people are going to say, number one, that you just the corporation or the establishment just didn't care. Or if it's something regarding, some criminal charges that are allegedly committed by some senior officer, then they are going to say, oh, this is probably true. So you need to respond to issues like this quickly. So there are several steps that people in the communications industry and companies or corporations must do. Number one, you should acknowledge if the situation did happen, you must quickly acknowledge that, yes, we are aware that an accident has occurred or a fire has occurred in one of our plants, and we are taking necessary steps to mitigate the situation. Now, that is called, in the corporate communication world, that is called a holding statement. You issue that first. And then, by then, the media would have started to be calling you. Reporters will be calling you, editors will be calling you to get confirmation, and then maybe to get further information. That's what the holding statement does. It gives time, it gives you, but not much, it gives you a little bit time to plan on how to further respond to this crisis. Now, that is number one. Now, the details of the holding statement, perhaps, if you can attend a workshop, that we are organizing, then I can give to you the details of how this holding statement can be crafted. Second is the issuance of statement. You can respond in two ways. Number one, you issue a press statement. Number two, you call for a press briefing or a press conference. It depends on the magnitude of the crisis. Some crises, issuing a press statement is important. Other crises, like for example, I'm sure you remember the unfortunate MH370 incident where we lost an airplane. That one you need press briefings. So if you remember, the press briefing for MH370 was held on a daily basis. Now, how I view, as a newsman, how I view the MH370 incident in terms of corporate communication, that one we can probably discuss in person in a workshop that we are planning. Now, there is simply no time for me to highlight or discuss it in detail here. Okay, so it depends. It's a press statement or a press conference, like I said. Now, even that, you need to know how to craft the press statement. When I say you need to know how to craft a press statement, what I mean is that when you issue a press statement, what do you want the press statement to achieve? We want the press statement to be picked up by the media. We don't want to send press statements to the media simply for the media to delete or just chuck them aside. We want them to be uploaded to their online, online news portals and things like that. Then, if it's a press briefing, you need to plan too. Now, a press briefing or press conference is in itself a separate topic or a separate subtopic to what we are discussing today. Who will lead the press conference? Now, in terms of times of crisis, authority is important. So the official, the company official, or the pegawai or whatever you want to call them, who's heading who will be leading the press conference must be an authoritative personnel of the company or the organization. Because we need authority. Okay. And then where is the, at what time? No, it can go as detailed as that, because timing of the press conference, where the press conference is going to be held, is also important to ensure that enough attendance, there is enough attendance, and there's enough response given to the press conference. Okay. Then we need to know, we need to also formulate within the company itself who is or are authorized to speak to the media. You cannot have everybody talking to the media. There must be an official will be appointed to speak or be allowed to speak to the media. Now remember, when there is a crisis, the news organization will also be competing for news from the crisis itself. And if they cannot get information from authorized personnel of the company, they might be calling people and then attribute such news to sources within the company. Now, this kind of thing that we in the newsroom are quite familiar with it. We attribute the news to sources of the company. Now, these sources-based news are the one that we are trying to minimize by having a well-structured media crisis framework. Because when there are sources, we do not know, the society will not know the authenticity or the truthfulness of the news. Now, you might have a disgruntled employee in your company. You never know. The disgruntled employee might be, might want to spread negative information about the company, and crisis present a good opportunity for him or her to do so. We don't want that. You must tell the media, or you must impress upon the media, that any information coming out related to the crisis must preferably be from an authorized source. And if you cannot, then the only way, one of the ways for you to minimize this sources-based news is to respond quickly, timely, and also in an organized manner. That's why you need a structured corporate media corporate crisis communications framework within the company. If you don't already have one, this is a good time for you to establish one. Okay. And then we will also be discussing on who are the personnel allowed to speak, whether it's in a briefing or press conference, who within the company are allowed to speak or allowed to handle a press conference, and why they are allowed to do, why are they chosen to be the ones who's handling the press conference or press briefing. Remember, in any crisis, a spectrum of people in society might be involved. If there is if an industrial accident involves loss of life or injuries, then the HR might be insisted. The HR must be present in the corporate communications team that handles the media crisis communication. If it involves financial, then the CFO or Chief Financial Officer should probably be in that team. And the team must, of course, be led by, now, if you ask me, I would say that no less than this, either the chief executive or the managing director, or if there is an executive president, then the executive president is also, I would also think that is qualified to head the press conference. But if you have all three, the better. Now, why I insist on having top personnel with executive position in the company is that because those with executive position in the company understand the daily running of the company. Of course, you might, some companies all the time, almost all the time, will have a board of directors, but the board is most of the time are responsible just on the board issues or board matters. The companies are run by executives with executive position, so they are better or better suited to organize press conferences and also to answer whatever question the press has for you. Okay, then we are also going to look into media landscape. Now the media landscape has changed. It has changed significantly since I joined 30 years ago. I don't think I have to outline to you. I don't know whether you still read newspapers. I doubt it. But when I started in the media industry, today's news will only appear tomorrow. So we have about 12 hours. 12 hours window for, if a crisis occurs now, you have 12 hours window to respond, because the media can still make changes. For example, for a newspaper, still make changes before the newspapers are printed. Or if it's television, you can still be talking to the news editor or the chief editor to make changes to news, to the story before the prime time 8 o'clock news. But not anymore today. You cannot do that anymore. Right? Like I explained at the beginning of my talk to you, that there's no more, you have lost that window already. If you have been following news or been following social media, for example, news on accident, on motor accident on highway or on the road, you will notice that today news on accidents are accompanied by video. You sometimes see, or most of the time you even see how the accident occurs. Simply because almost every car on the road now is fitted by this dash cam. Now those days, you need to send a cameraman to take a picture, but you will never be able to see how the accident occurred. So that is a significant change. Excuse me. From what it was then, that what it is now. And it poses challenges not only to the media, but also to people in the communication industry. Because like I said, you have to move even a lot faster than the old days. Then the old days are gone, and they're not coming back. Secondly, the media has also changed. The media landscape. Almost everybody now with a handphone, with a smartphone, is qualified. To me, is qualified as a journalist. You can take pictures, you can take videos, and you can type. Of course, they are not. If you are an individual, you are not a member of the licensed traditional business establishment. But you have all the tools to spread information. The same tool that the media organizations are using. So there's so many of this. There are so many newsmen, newsmen around the world now. So if you see a fire, if you see a fire appearing on news on the news portal, you see a fire appearing on any of the social media, the video of incidences are probably taken by a bystander who happened to be there and he was holding a smartphone. So that's the changes, some of the changes that has occurred in the media industry. And then we have what is called artificial intelligence, AI. Now, this AI has brought a completely new environment or new challenges for the media industry. And I think for everybody. Now, we have to deal now, the society now has got to deal with things like fake news, deep fakes. Are these true? Did this really happen or not? But the thing is, if you don't respond quickly to this, like I said, the society might form an opinion on your company or on your establishment and say that it's probably true. So, which makes it even more pertinent for you to establish a crisis framework that can respond fast, right? If you have any question, ladies and gentlemen, you can forward it to me now. I will try to answer them. And then we will also be going into the roles that are to be played by this spokesperson. Okay, role that's to be played by the chief executive, by the CFO, by the HR manager, the legal manager, in terms of handling the crisis. But of course, I cannot go through all of that now. We will go through that in a workshop if you choose to attend. And equally important in any crisis communication plan is the monitoring of response. Okay, the monitoring of where you are in terms of the crisis now, in terms of the media crisis now. Where are you in terms of the media crisis now? Now, there are tools, right, to gauge the public perception of a company, to gauge the response to news. Even the traditional or even the mainstream news has these tools which you can use to track where the company actually, or you or the company actually stands in terms of managing a crisis. Okay. Okay, then I think there is also a need for a dedicated session in the workshop to deal with how to write press releases. How to write press releases. I usually pay special attention how press releases are written because my experience in the newsroom is more of a 50-50 chance. If you issue a press release, whether the news media is going to use or whether we're going to use or publish a press release or not. So you need, there are certain ways that communication people in companies or establishments or organizations will have to use, will have to adhere to in writing of press release. Because when you write a press release, like I said earlier, you want the media to spread or to use this press release. Okay. Okay, we have a question here from Muhammad Ezri bin Mustapha. The question says, from a communication perspective, what is the ideal time frame for an organization to issue its first official statement after a crisis, especially when the facts are still being verified? Now, there is this 15-minute rule in terms of facing a crisis, media crisis. You have 15 minutes to craft a statement or to craft an official statement as regard to the crisis. But like I said, the first official statement, quite understandably, you may not have the full facts of the crisis as yet. You might not know the magnitude, or you might not know whether there are any injuries or any lives lost or any property damage, right? So that's why within the 15 minutes, you have to issue the holding statement first. Now, of course, if you attend my workshop, I can tell you how to craft this holding statement. Okay. Now, why do we need to issue this holding statement? Number one is to keep the press or the media at bay in that 15 minutes. Number two is to impress upon the media that yes, we acknowledge that a crisis has occurred, and that the media is going to get authoritative and correct information from authorized sources within the company. So that is why you need to explain, or you need to respond within the first 15 minutes. But then after that, there are other steps that you have to take. You cannot issue a statement and then do nothing. No, of course, quite understandably, people in the communication sector will then start to go deeper. Okay, what is the crisis all about? What involves what? Does it involve our, does it affect our product, our vendor, our suppliers? All these are being, you must craft all these additional statements after the holding statements to make sure, like I said, the reputation of the company remains intact. Okay. Okay. So don't forget, we have 15 minutes or even faster. Then, if you don't have a dedicated corporate, you don't have a dedicated company's corporate media communications team. Now, not all companies have corporate comm in their companies. Okay? Some don't. But at least you must have at least a plan of how to face media crisis. Or if you have a dedicated corporate communication department in your establishment, you have to have a media crisis framework within the company. You have to have it ever ready for a crisis, so that when a crisis occurs, you know how to respond quickly. Who is authorized to speak? Who will write the press release? Who will issue the holding statement? What shall be in the holding statement? So you don't want to lose time in just and responding to crisis, because like I said, time is of the essence. Okay, now in the workshop, I will also discuss with you the importance of building media relation with the media organization, for example, and how this can be done, and why you need to understand who, or you need to know who is who in the media, what are their roles, and what process does information goes through before they are being either uploaded or printed or appear on television news. I will also deal with that, or also discuss that with you. Now, there are various steps that these things go through, okay? The reporter gets the story from you. The reporter brings it home, or he can, well, nowadays reporters file or write stories from the event themselves or from the place of the event themselves. Then an editor looks at the story in the newsroom and then uploads to either the news portal, or prepares it for print if there are still printed newspapers around, or if there's television, there are also the editors will also make the news, or craft the news suitable for television news, because television news are normally compact news, right? And you have to know these people, or at least some of them. I will also discuss with you how to build relations with the press, how you need to know some of these people, and then so that it will be much easier for you to be working together later on in terms of crisis. Okay? There are certain things, of course, that webinars such as this cannot cover. We cannot cover, of course, crisis simulation. There are quite a few crisis situations, crisis examples that we can cover in a proper workshop, and we can analyze that what went wrong or what was good about now. Not all crisis communications are failures. Okay, there are some success stories too. So we need to examine which one is successful and why is it successful, and which one failed and why they failed. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go deep into that now, but you need to understand this. Why crisis simulation, some crisis communication sometimes succeed and sometimes fail. Okay? And then there's also the need to practice interviews. Now, some of maybe your chief executive, your MD, your chairman, or your ketua pengarah, every now and then they will have to face the press or the media. Now, not all of these people are comfortable with the media. You have to train them. There are things they can say. You have to train them about how to say things. There are things they can say. There are things they cannot say. The CEOs, MDs are normally busy people, but you need to advise them of US corporate communications personnel need to advise them what the final aspect of media interview. And then we can also do, like I said, press release and how you pitch press release to make sure that they are used by the media. Now, most importantly, I think the last item is that we will draw a crisis communication plan, a complete crisis communication plan, and I will be able to sit down with you and draw up a complete crisis communication plan, a framework, because crisis differs between companies to companies, organization to organization, but having a plan is a necessity in today's world. So you need to have a plan. So what do you need to put in this plan? We will be able to discuss that in a proper workshop. Now, we have another question, gentlemen. It's from Nur Elia Abdumanan. How to approach management to start using public statements if any issue occurs in the company when it comes to bad perception by the public. Okay, how to approach management to start using public statement if any issue occurs in the company when it comes to bad perception. Well, the answer to that is, number one, you just have to respond. You cannot let this bad perception fester. You have to respond. And there is no other way other than management must issue statement when the company comes under bad light. You cannot just sit there and keep quiet. Okay, because like I said, reputation is very important to a company. So you need to approach your management and tell them that, okay, there's society or the public is forming a very bad perception of the company now, and we need to issue a statement. Now, the statement must be not only authorized, must be seen to have come from the highest authority of the company. Don't be afraid to issue a statement. If you are not in the wrong, there is no reason for a company to be afraid. So if it's just perception, then the company must respond quickly. There is another question from Muhammad Ezri bin Mustapha. These days, before we even start the car to go to work, the incident video is already all over social media. In that situation, should organization respond to every negative comment or just focus on correcting misinformation? No, I don't think you should respond to all negative comments. Right? Some of the comments, some comments made by the public are outrightly outrageous, right? So the company must just focus on correcting misinformation. But even to correct information, you must have what is the correct version of the news. So that means somebody must be able to explain what is the correct version of the news, and that somebody must be someone with authority. It cannot be just anybody. But I don't think people expect you to respond to all negative comment. There will be negative comment. sometimes the comments might be coming from a rival. Some might, like I said, some might come from a disgruntled employee. But only those whom or which the company deemed as damaging to their reputation, then that one you have to respond to correct the misinformation. Okay. Now, I was at the crisis communication plan just now. There's one more question before that, or there's two. What is your take on Lotus crisis management stand with regard to recent incident? How could we have done better? Oh, this Lotus incident. If you remember, a lady who was pregnant. Yeah, a lady who was pregnant, and she had the security. She was stopped by security at the exit of the hypermarket. Okay, and on suspicion of smuggling unpaid goods out of the hypermarket. And turns out she, of course, you understand how a pregnant woman look like or physically look like. I mean, we are not going to go into that, but now this is quite a tricky matter to attend, because the Lotus security team, I think, made a mistake in holding up the woman, and of course making it as if she had committed theft. Okay. No. In situations like this, I think the only option available was to issue an apology. And to take action, and to inform the public that appropriate action will be taken, not only to reprimand the official that those who are involved in stopping the woman, but also to make sure that incidences like this will not occur in the future. That I'm afraid that's the only response that Lotus can give. But keeping quiet is not an option. Like I said, Lotus must continue continue to issue statements to assure the public that matters like this will not happen in the future. There's another question from Nur Shairatul Salwani. How do you distinguish between a genuine reputational crisis and a social media outrage that is loud but unlikely to have a long-term business plan? Or business impact, likely to have long business impact. I think I think the company or even you will be able to do this yourself. You know the company best. Nobody knows the company better than those who are working in the company. So to distinguish between a genuine reputational crisis and a social media outrage that is loud but unlikely to have a long-term business impact, the company has to decide whether this is simply a social media outrage that is, like you said, loud but unlikely to have a long business impact. But like I said, not responding is also not an option. You have to say something. Otherwise, that social media outrage that is loud but unlikely to have a long-term business impact may have a long-term business impact if society starts saying that probably this is true. You must respond. Okay? Okay, there's another one from Izzati Ismail. Should we respond to every social media outrage? How usually business can determine it's okay not to respond? Okay, this is almost the same question. Like I said, there is no need to respond to every social media outrage. How usually business can determine is okay not to. If it's okay not to respond, then you probably, if you determine that it's just social media outrage, you probably will need to respond probably once, just to make the public aware that it is just social media outrage. But if it is, if the company decided, like I said in the earlier question, it may have an impact on your long-term business viability, then there need to be several response or a structured response to situations like this. But no, you don't have to respond to every social media outrage. Okay, I was at the crisis communication plan just now. I was saying that the workshop that we will be organizing where we have more time, we will also do a structured crisis communication plan, which you can, perhaps if you don't already have one, can take back with you to your respective organizations and companies, and to impress upon your bosses that you should have such a plan within the company. Okay, I will now open the webinar to questions. If you have any question, this is an important topic. If you are in the communication business, you cannot take this topic lightly, right? Simply because, like I said, reputation is important. The news media, the news landscape has changed, and you don't have the luxury of time in crafting your response to crisis, and the media will keep changing. Okay, let's go on to the. Okay, there is another question before I go on to the last item for today. In today's social media, and this is a question from Cik Noor. Okay, from Cik Dalila Rizal, what do you suggest we do to handle any media personnel who come to the office for info? You don't knock the guy lah. The guy is just trying to make a living. Okay, now I give you a situation. I give you a situation. This is real. This is what it is now. Okay, the media industry is is engaged in a stiff competition. The media players, the stiff competition among themselves, among these various media organizations, and who forwards or uploads the news first. You know, because in those days, when we compete for example, during my time, we compete on newspaper circulation. Now, news organization compete on engagement, on likes and all this, because these are the currency they use to secure or to market themselves to advertisers. Okay? So you may get media personnel coming to your office for info. But like I said, don't chase them away lah. I was chased away many times before when I was a reporter, but don't. Okay. The holding statement should be able to tell the media that, you know, that they should wait for an official or confirm or an authoritative news from an authoritative source within the company. But if they still want to come to your office, it depends whether you are authorized to speak to the media or not. Because if you are not authorized to speak to the media, then I would suggest you explain to the media that only authoritative persons with authority are allowed to speak to the media in terms of, you know, as far as this crisis is concerned. But you can be friends. There's no harm to that. Don't be mean to the media. Treat them as your friend. Because corporate communication sector makes one part of the information dissemination industry. The media makes the other part. So if the two can work together, then I think society will benefit. Right? So there's another question from Noor Shairatul Salwani. In today's social media environment, can a company really come out stronger after a crisis? Or should the focus simply be on reducing the damage? It's a good question. A company can emerge stronger after a crisis. Okay. Now it's how you handle the crisis. Now that determines whether the company can emerge stronger or not. Now there is a saying that everybody will face a problem every once in a while. But it is how you get out of the problem that determines between men and boys. Okay? So, which explains, which further strengthens my belief that every company should have a media crisis communication framework. Okay. Now, if you simply focus on reducing damage, you know, that's like fighting fire. At the end of the day, that you might not put out the fire and you might be tired. So it is better to handle the crisis quickly as it happened. And then there is a possibility that the company emerging stronger after the crisis. Okay, that's usually the crisis is a test for the company. There's a question from Hanim Zulaika Bukefli. Have you ever had to lead through a major crisis? If we are talking about a major crisis in the company, yes. The New Straits Times faced a flood, a major flood, when I was chief executive. So much so that we had to close one of our printing plant, not too far away from where I am now. And then, of course, there is also a negatively perceived issue where we had to go, where all newspapers or all media organizations at the time, of course, had to go through this company rationalization exercises, which is a very beautiful way of saying that we have to lay off people, right? So I was there in the NSTP at the time. We had to handle that too. Yeah, but of course, there are crises which are much, a lot more bigger, a lot more damaging, potentially damaging or bigger than that. You know, take our airline MAS faced two major crises within a short span of time. First, they lost an airplane, then one of the other jetliner was shot down. It must be a headache for the corporate communication department to handle both the crises. But like I said, don't wait. You need to have a crisis communication framework now. Okay, so let me tell you what this workshop that we are planning will entail. Basically, it'll be a one-day intensive workshop. Then we have, then I will go through with you media landscape and stakeholder. Why these people? How do we determine their importance in the company, the organization? And then we will go through on how to craft press releases, and then how, methods of how you can then pitch media organization so that the press releases that you issue are being used by the media organization. There will be a bit on media interview handling practice, where I will go through with you on how interviews. Sometimes the media will ask you for interviews, or ask your CEO for interviews. Okay. Now, there are various methods on how these interviews can be pursued or handled. And then we try to build a crisis communication plan template, and then simulation of case studies. Okay. Says here, press release and media pitching clinic. Press release means also press statement. Okay? Press statement and media interviews. The fourth item is also concerned press conferences. Our press conferences are to be held. Now, not all press conference or media interviews are the same. Okay? Now, some interviews requires the press, for example, to send question in advance. Some interviews does not. Some interviews are just very informal, by the door kind of interview. We call it doorstop in the media fraternity. Okay, now we'll go through all this. Okay. So, are there any more questions before I close? Okay, if you're interested participate in the seminar, the one-day seminar. The program fee is 1,750. It's for special NTW participant price. And to do that, you can scan the QR code and landing page to rmjnexus.com, and you can register there. Now, I highly encourage you to participate in the seminar. I guarantee you are going to go back with not only satisfied, but you are going to go back with knowledge of how you can then prepare yourself and your companies for any crisis that may occur. Now, like I said, this crisis is like Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. Right? So it's a matter of, it's a question of when. So it's better prepared. So better be prepared with a crisis communication plan, which we go through in the one-day workshop. Okay. There is another question which I will try to answer from Izzati Ismail. How do we effectively counter inaccurate media narratives when they are shaping public perception, especially if the reporting doesn't reflect the actual facts or the company's official position? And how do we advise the management to not get jumpy over the false statement from the media? Okay, to counter inaccurate media narrative, there is no other way to do that other than for you to continuously issue the correct information from your company. At the end of the day, I think society will, they almost always tend to believe the official explanation, then narrative shaped by the within the social media. How do we advise the management to not get jumpy? Now, this jumpy thing is a personal thing. We do not know. I have no idea where your bosses were born, what day they were born. You know? But no, you advise your bosses that getting this false media, getting a false statement from or false news is common in today's world, because there is a lot of avenues for people to come up with their own version of news, and there is not enough, I would say, not enough deterrent people from doing so. There are legislations, of course. There's people can be sued for libel, for slander, but I don't encourage you to make that your primary way of dealing with this. Okay, but advise the management that every now and then negative perception, negative news about the company will surface, but as long as you have a corporate communication department or crisis department that can continuously answer to these issues, then the boss shouldn't be too worried. So the bosses you must impress upon your bosses that these things occur. Okay. Okay, so there's also a QR code for you to share your feedback from today's training, to today's short training, you can scan the QR code and send your feedback. Okay. So once again, I would encourage you to get into this rmjnexus.com landing page, and the forms are all there, and then to register yourself, and we can go into detail on how to form or to formulate an effective media crisis communication strategy and also framework. Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for attending today's webinar, and I hope we will meet again sometime in the future, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mustapha Kamil, Mr. Mustapha Kamil, for the experience that he shared. Can I share QR? Yeah, I will share the all the link in the group, but I also sharing it now. This the one that I share is the form, feedback form. So we will count the feedback form as attendance for the participant. So please enter your display name, the name that you use in NTW portal if you want to have the certificate. If you didn't use your real name, then you cannot detect you as a user of NTW. Okay, with that, I would like to thank again Mr. Mustapha Kamil for his sharing session. Can we have a picture? Can we have a picture with everyone? Okay. Yeah. I would like to invite everyone to open their camera. Just let me. Okay, let me try to set first. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Can we have a we take picture first? Okay. Take picture. Okay. I'll do screenshot. I count 1, 2, 3, and then can everyone open their camera first? Open camera. Open camera. Okay. In 3, 1, 2, 1. You. Yes, me. Okay, 3, 2, 1 again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Oh, hey, there's more coming. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So with that, I will continue in the group. I will share the slide in the group. I will share the feedback form in the group. I will share the video via our website, but I will share the link in the group. We're also going to share the one-day program in the group as well. So we will continue in the group. Hope everyone can have a great day. Have a good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Goals as the outcome, and now looking at how a leader should actually work towards getting those, achieving those. That's the importance of leadership.
RMJ Nexus, global we rise. RMJ Nexus, reaching the sky. way we building tomorrow, starting today. We are the spark, we are the light, turning ideas into action bright. With every mind and every hand, we build the future across the land. From training rooms to digital dreams, we power people, we strengthen team. With 3SG and AI in motion, we move the world with bold devotion. Integrity in every stride, excellence we carry with pride. Collaboration lights our way, collaboration wins the day. Rise, rise, RMJ Nexus, rise. Together we shine, together we fly. Global vision, future strong, this is our journey, this is our song. Rise, rise, with passion and fire, lifting the nation, reaching higher. RMJ Nexus, shining through, the future begins with me and you. We lead with knowledge, we grow with heart, transforming lives, playing our part. For business, talent, and sustainability, we create impact with responsibility. From strategy to execution, we bring intelligent solutions. With every program, every stage, we turn a new and brighter page. One mission, one energy, one team, one destiny. Empower minds, unlock the way. RMJ Nexus leads the day. Rise, RMJ Nexus, rise. Together we shine, together we fly. Global vision, future strong, this is our journey, this is our song. Rise, with passion and fire, lifting the nation, reaching higher. The Nexus shining through, the future begins with me and you. Oh, Nexus, global we rise. RMJ Nexus, reaching the skies. Energy, impact, future in view. RMJ Nexus, we lead with you.